Another episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. A lot of stuff, like we were talking the other day about how we were worried we were going to be strapped for a little bit of content here, and I do one day want to do the viral tier lists that everybody does. Go find ourselves like a pre-made NBA one and tier things out. I think that'd be a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Obviously, we have a video version of the podcast that would be a big part of that. But we'll save that for a time we actually are strapped for content because there's a lot going on in the NBA today. It feels like I guess the word chalky teams to pick to win the NBA right now, at least in the West, are not necessarily doing that great. And we will dive into that in later on in the episode. But we did want to warm up with a topic and player that we referenced when we talked the Cavs. I would say it was 2 episodes ago at this point. We were talking about Ricky Rubio and the situation with the Cavs. You know, he was out to address mental health issues that, at least reading into his post on social media, he is still working on. And so with that, the Cavs and him came to an agreement on a contract buyout. So that means the Cavs get a little bit of financial relief, and obviously he can move on to whatever is next. He did post on social media that what I thought was interesting was July 30th was one of the toughest nights of his life, and that his mind went to a dark place. Kind of knew that he was going in that direction, but never thought that he was thought that he was under control of the situation. And that was when he kind of decided that his professional career was potentially over. Obviously, a very long one, drafted by the Timberwolves in 2009, had 7 seasons with them before going to Utah. And I personally, he mentioned this, that he would share his experiences going forward to hopefully help other people. I am genuinely curious to hear that story, whether it's a documentary, whether it's him just posting about it. Like, I'm interested, and not from like a I want to be entertained standpoint, as I want to understand standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sudden, and I think
Mhm.
anytime you have a pretty sudden retirement in the middle of the season like this with somebody that's been around the league as long as he has, and Ricky Rubio, that it raises some eyebrows, and I'm sure we'll get some clarity there. But I mean, I think the most important thing, like you mentioned too, is that we hope Ricky gets his mental health in order. We wish the best for him and his family.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't know what he was alluding to in July, but if it's enough for him to just stop cold, because I mean, even salary wise, like he's giving back, I think, almost $5.5 million as part of this retirement, just in salary back to Cleveland. So, this
So
is a decision that is not taken lightly, and he's had to jump. We're going to find out some more information here, but yeah, definitely when a vet, because I mean, he's a little bit older now, like you said, he's
well,
32 years old, but for it to just be this sudden. Yes, you hope all is well, most importantly.
so just a quick Google to kind of figure out when his last ACL tear was, which is what I think he was alluding to with the 30th.
Mhm.
But maybe not. He said on the 28th of December, or on the 28th of December, no, they don't have a year on this, is when he tore his ACL. That was against the Pelicans. That was the next day was when it was confirmed. So I don't know if maybe there was something to do with the injury in all of that. Um, but that's what I allude to is he did have some pretty tough injuries that we've heard other players kind of talk about. You kind of feel like you're on your own when you're rehabbing because you're not really able to like participate in the team workouts and the games and the 5-on-5s or whatever it is. So I wonder if maybe that's a little bit of what he's alluding to, and what's going on. I don't know. Again, he said he's going to hopefully share his experiences going forward. Like I said, not from an want to be entertained standpoint. I would love to hear that story to understand it a little bit better.
Yeah. From a basketball perspective, you talked a little bit earlier, but stints with the Timberwolves, the Jazz, the Suns, and the
Do you,
Cavs, 2011, 2012 all rookie team.
do you think what team do you think he'll be more remembered for? Jazz?
No, I think Minnesota
You
probably the
think?
most. I mean, he spent the most of his career there. He was drafted there. I mean, people forget because his first 2 years he was playing in Spain in 2009 through 2011, and there was originally, like, he was one of the guys where there was a real question when he got drafted if he would come over, but I also remember a lot of the hype around Ricky Rubio.
Hmm.
He's one of the Euro guys, who really, start kind of broke through early, and it was almost the countdown of like, all right, when is this guy coming to America? Like, he was really one of, and obviously with the rise of the Spanish national team around that time too, I think he obviously played a pretty prominent role there.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, really solid NBA career. 10-8 almost career average, a little under that. I think he's at like 7.8 assists. I mean, I'll just always remember Ricky Rubio is like a quintessential point guard type. Like, he's just that type of, he knows how to make the smart play, really high basketball IQ.
Yep.
Obviously one of the flashier passes that we've seen in this league, but and then later on too, the veteran leadership. I know in Cleveland he got a lot of love in that locker room. He was only in Phoenix 1 year, but I remember those Suns teams having nothing but reverence for Rubio in his shorter stint
And
there.
that Phoenix team, he tied his career high in assists in a season at 8.8, almost 9 assists in a game. He did it one other time in 14-15 with Minnesota, but sorry, he had one season where he was above 9 with Minnesota. So close to career highs with Phoenix.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like you said, the veteran leadership. I mean, he's 32 years old right now. I just think of him as solid. Like, I know that's always my, like, Ricky Rubio. You knew you would throw in, and if you needed him in a point guard position, like, he was going to make the smart play. He was going to be dependable. Like, he was never going to be able to be the type of player that would necessarily like take over an offensive game, but he'd always make the right pass. And it just feels like he contributed.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I can build a winner around Ricky Rubio, if that made sense. Like, he'd be a part of a quality team.
I cannot believe, and this is you'll feel the same way, that, I mean, he's essentially our age.
Yeah.
Born in 90.
He's younger than me. He's 32 years old right now.
He's older than me, but isn't it weird to think that you and I right now could have a 12-year NBA career under our belts?
I really don't want to think about that fact. I mean, that happens to every guy ever, I feel like, when they realize when all the athletes are way, way younger than you.
Yeah.
Because we've crossed that threshold. I mean,
easily.
I'm 33 years old now at this point. Like, a lot of my NBA favorites were getting ready to borderline retire. Then you look at a guy like, for example, I mean, LeBron's the ultimate example, but even look at a guy like Devin Booker, who, like, Book was barely 18 when he came into the league.
Yeah.
It feels like pushing 19. And now Book had like 7 or 8 years under his belt by the time he was 25. Like, he's not even close to done.
Do you have a specific player that was like the first player to make you feel that way, where you're like, oh damn, like I am starting to age?
Oh man. I don't know if I have a specific. I know year-wise for me, it was 2002, and this is gonna be absolutely insane. And so I promise that this is not insensitive, but it blew my mind because one of my interns at WDBO was born in 2002, right before I left.
Okay.
And, like, I couldn't wrap my head. I was like, yo, you weren't alive during 9/11? Who wasn't alive during 9/11? Like, I'm so, which obviously plenty of people now. Like, we've had how many people born since then? But it's like, I think 2002 was the first year where I just was like, whoa, that is wild. Like, I have vivid memories from 2002.
I completely agree. I'm trying to think. There was definitely a player, and I want to say it was a wide receiver on the Patriots one year for a Super Bowl. The name's escaping me, but I remember the like year they were born was like 2000 or whatever it was, and I was just like, oh damn.
I mean, like, I remember all the Y2K stuff on the Millennium turn. Like,
dude,
I remember.
Our neighbors, we literally went to our neighbor's house to have like a New Year's party. And I remember going into their basement, and in their back of their basement, like their basement was mostly finished, and then there was like a door that went to a back room that was like an unfinished basement. I remember I went back there because we were playing like hide and seek or whatever. And I go into the back, and it's just filled with canned food and like, and I was like, oh my God, what's all back here? And because I didn't fully understand the Y2K stuff.
They were doomsday prepping, baby. They were ready.
Yeah, Michelle, she was my neighbor. I hated her. Just for reference. She
I love it. You even die. You even hide the name then too. You just like, nah, I
no,
hated her.
it's fine. She doesn't listen to the podcast. But I remember her saying something like, "Oh yeah, my parents are worried that the technology is gonna all like just go down, and so they've got this back here just in case." And I remember thinking, "Well, damn, we didn't do that. Good thing you guys did. We'll just come steal it from
Yeah,
you."
right. The one in and because now that we're totally derailed, I'm going to tell this story. I don't have a Y2K story, but I remember in 2012 when everybody thought the Mayan calendar was ending and that whole
Oh my
apocalypse thing
god,
was at
dude.
December 21st. I think the world was going to end, and so like obviously you don't buy a ton into it, but we were home because it had to be around Christmas break then, and so
Mhm.
I was
Yep.
riding around. Shout out to my guy Danny Siegel. We were coming home from something, but like he and I were just driving solo, and like it was 11:57. And, like, I think both of us I turned the music down, and we just kinda looked at each other, and we're like,
Are we
"Is this
about
gonna
to
happen in 3 minutes?" Like,
Are we
or,
about to be done?
is
Yeah.
this kinda weird? And,
Is
like,
this it?
obviously, nothing happened. Like, we, ended up drove home, all is well, but that was just, like, a real eerie feeling there for a sec.
Yeah, I wonder how many of those, like, I feel like as a kid, the first few, you kinda, like, at least get into a little bit because you haven't experienced it, a situation where, like, everybody in the news is telling you, like, it's gonna end. Um, but, like, how many of those happen till you're finally like, "Okay, well, obviously this isn't real. Like, I'm not worried about it now."
If there's a catastrophic apocalyptic event that is about to happen, like a gamma ray burst or an
Yeah.
asteroid just plows into the planet, there is nothing I could have done at that point.
But, yeah, it's, like, whatever.
What am I gonna do? Like it's seriously, what am I going to do if that happens?
I know. I, I don't know. Yeah.
This isn't Armageddon. I didn't have warning. We couldn't launch somebody up there.
Alright, that's what I mean, like, just or at that point, don't tell me and just let it be a surprise, like, "Oh, well, it's over, everything's done." It just goes, snap of the finger, everything's done, and we're all
Well,
gone.
and even if you survive it, like you're on a radically different planet where all of a sudden, like, I don't know, there's no driving dish podcast on in
No.
the post-apocalyptic world. At least not yet. Not at least till we get the electricity back, or you archived all those episodes, and then in that case, make it the soundtrack of the post-apocalyptic world. Say that 3 times fast. The Driving Dish NBA podcast. Welcome everybody. My name is Kevin Rafuse. Joining me as always, my co-host Justin Cousart.
Love of passion is love of honesty.
What is like? What do you even put a prompt in here, or do you just
No,
say, "Give me a quote"?
literally, I hit here, hold on now. I will for the video users, I will it's literally called Insprobot.
Okay, I didn't
I'm
know if
gonna
you put in like there was a theme. You know what I'm saying? Where you can put in
nope,
love.
nope, literally,
Oh,
look,
wow,
there
okay, there we go. Love is
literally,
love
look,
of
I go
passion is love of honesty.
I am genuinely terrified
Huh.
about what might happen if I hit generate because
Oh
we
my
don't know.
god,
Here
we're in
we
the
go.
wild card. Here we go.
It's generating. Get fat on honesty 24/7.
I agree. I don't know what that means, but I'm with it. I agree. Get fat on honesty 24/7.
What an aggressive inspiration. I almost wish I used
I
that one.
kind of like, well, I love that it's got because like the background there for the
What is
YouTube
that even?
viewers, like
Yeah.
there's a bridge and it's like in the woods, except you're like either I don't know if you're walking to the light or you're like walking out of Sleepy Hollow, but it's kind of
I
got
took
that
it as
vibe a little bit.
I took it as like, because I've been watching Fire Country a lot. I took it as like the forest is on fire. Like, look at that. It's like so bright.
Wildfires terrify me. Like
Yeah,
that is
dude.
one. I mean, listen, you still live in Florida, and like I lived in Florida for a long time. When a hurricane comes barreling down at you, there's nothing you can do. But at least I got warning. That wildfire, that is, I mean, and even going back to like the Maui
Yeah.
footage from earlier this year,
Oof.
that is
Yeah, you don't get
unsettling.
much warning on that.
No,
That's for
I
sure.
mean, it's. I
As
mean,
somebody that lives in a townhome and owns a townhome, it is quite terrifying that to know, like, obviously we've got firewalls and stuff in place, so like we
yeah.
should be okay, but it's still terrifying to know, like, I don't know, my neighbor that's 3 houses down could be an idiot and forget to turn off something, and now everyone's house is on fire, you know?
Yeah, that would be a problem. We pray that that doesn't happen. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We'll read them on the podcast. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Anywhere you find a podcast, you can find us.
And obviously, you can hit us up on YouTube, Driving Ish MBAs, where you can subscribe. Obviously, there is a video version of the podcast. We actually got a comment on our last episode from Will Brad 23. So thank you for one, watching, one, listening, and two, leaving the comment. Kevin is more geared towards you. He says, sorry for your loss, Kevin. My condolences to Matt's family and friends. Enjoyed the podcast as always, despite the sad news to start off. Keep up the good work. All the best from GB.
No, I appreciate you, GB. Thank you, big time. That sincerely means a lot to me. And that's why we, shout out to our community. We say that all the time. But I really emphasize, like, we have the best listeners in the world. We really enjoy, doing this podcast and talking hoops with y'all, and getting the feedback, and like, this is, we do this for you guys, and as much as we do it for us, like, this is a lot of fun. This is a release for us, as it was for me last week, and so we appreciate y'all rocking out with us. It really means a lot.
I always laugh because it's one of those. It might be, I don't think the word's imposter syndrome, but whenever
you still don't get why people listen to us.
Not that. It's like, why do you care about what we think about basketball is what I think a lot of times. Like, what am I going to say that Woj can't say a million times better and have a better insight to? You know what I mean? Not that I literally don't want to dump on our own podcast, but a lot of times I feel that way where I'm like, I appreciate it. I love it. But man, the imposter syndrome sometimes is wild.
It's real, but don't sell yourself short either. Like, I'm your, like, hype you up particularly, coach, because I don't think you hype yourself up enough sometimes.
There are a lot of
short, Justin.
Dude, there are a lot of times where we read between the lines of articles and things being commented about teams that we're able to predict something, and we say it on the podcast. And a lot of times when it happens, I'm like, damn. That was really impressive of us to do. I get very impressed sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this for 11 seasons. Like, you consume the NBA. Like, I don't think you just by the keeping up with every team. I think tough. You already are consuming more NBA than most people. It's a lot of work to get. Like, obviously we don't watch every single game. If this was my full-time job, I would love to watch every single game.
NBA.com, hit us up.
Like, if somebody wants to make this a full-time thing, by all means, like, hit me, hit Justin, we're ready. But
and we're cheap.
Whoa, wait, hang on. Wait a minute. I'm not hyping you up on that one. I don't know about that.
Oh, that's funny.
Don't make it sound like we gotta have a little bit of respect for ourselves here, but no.
I mean, yeah, at least make it worth it for us,
There's no other way. Now a word from our sponsors.
So, teams are not doing very well right now, and they are teams that probably at the beginning of the season were perceived, I can talk, to be the teams that would be doing well, particularly a team sitting number 10 in the Western Conference standings and a team sitting number 11 now in the Western Conference standings. I'll throw the Suns in there a little later. They're at 8 right now, 19 and 16. We don't have to talk about them, but I think we should focus first on the team with the current losing streak as of recording this podcast, and that is the Lakers. And I don't want to get too far down the line, but I almost want to get to the point in this conversation, and you can tell me no because it's an idiot move right off the rip, and we won't go that way. But I think the Lakers situation gets you to a conversation of, would you rather have a team with two superstars or have a team that doesn't have two but has more depth? Because it feels like right now, between the Suns, between the Warriors, between the Lakers, I guess Clippers would be the counter argument to this a little bit. It feels like the more depth teams are more dangerous playoff teams right now.
Well, I think two in the depth is the way to go. I think with three, it can
lose
work.
The depth.
Miami, we obviously saw it work with Heat.
Sure. But again, that's back in the day. Now you've got,
that's still only a decade ago. I know
it's
what
getting there,
is like,
but like the younger players, the skill of the younger players coming into the league right now almost feels like I don't know. There was a fear of the super team. Like, there was a fear of that LeBron James Heat team. Is there a super team that you feel like in the NBA people are scared of right now?
I don't think there's a super team, but that anyone in the NBA is scared of. Like, I do think there's a lot of like, if we're gonna fully zoom out for a second,
Yeah.
I think Boston is the clear title favorite right now. And
Okay.
you know me as a Sixers fan, that's a disgusting sentence to come out of my mouth. But I do. I think if there's I just think they're the most complete. I think
Sure.
they have a great duo, obviously, in Tatum and Brown, but you have got Derek White playing the ball of his life right now. Porzingis has fit in as well as we thought he would. Al Horford's still giving you really motivated minutes off the bench. Like, I just think they're more complete. Denver obviously always looms as well. They're the defending champs. I don't want to sell them short either. But overall, I think the motto, you can still win with the big three, I think, because I even in Brooklyn, we're a Katie big toe away from them probably winning the title that year. I
Okay.
know that's a big what if, but that does matter a lot. Like, and with Phoenix, the only and why I hesitate to group them here with the Lakers and the Warriors is kind of what we talked about last week, is that they might be good enough
We
when
just
they
haven't
have
seen
all
it
three of
long
these
enough.
guys playing, and they're starting to climb a little bit. So I don't really look at them because the Lakers have their big too. Their biggest issue with them specifically has been the depth. I think that's
Right.
what's more concerning here. You're getting everything you need out of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, especially
Yeah.
AD. AD's been phenomenal offensively. Like, you know what he gives you defensively all the time, but he's really taken on a lion's share of the offensive load with this team. And it just hasn't mattered. Like, they're still sitting right now they're a game above Utah right now. Like, that's an alarming sentence for the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, 2 games under 500. You're only a half game out of play-in, but again, this is a team that going into the season, like, they've got title ambitions. Like, they were looking forward to a rematch with Denver in the conference finals. That, you got a lot of climbing to do before you can even start to think about that rematch.
And worth mentioning, they're 2-8 in their last 10.
Yep.
So that 4-game losing streak is a little worse than it looks right now. To that, there have been some reports coming out that I believe it was The Athletic, that there's growing disconnect between Lakers players and the head coach. I feel like that's a cop-out kinda thing. Like, the first thing to go is the disconnect between the coach and the players, like, when they're not playing well. I feel like that's like we're on a 4-game losing streak. Someone leak out that there's disconnect, like, that's kind of the go-to PR move, I feel like.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it definitely is. And like, look, there's a couple things we can like look at overall. D'Angelo Russell's dealt with health
Sure.
issues. Gabe Vincent largely hasn't played this year. There's just also been some regression. Like, Rui Hakamura has really taken a step back this year. Austin Reeves has been good, but he's been getting hunted defensively left and right. Cam Reddish had a
Which
great in-season
which
tournament.
is what happens when you don't have enough depth.
Well,
Somebody that commands attention more than LeBron and AD.
see, I like it's crazy though, because I didn't even necessarily with this roster go into it and say they have a depth issue. I liked a lot of these guys. Like, I like the Vincent pickup. I like Jared Vanderbilt a lot, especially defensively. Hachimura, I thought again had a great run last year. It's just, you're right. It hasn't been there. They moved D'Angelo Russell to the bench. I don't know if maybe that was a panic move to put Vanderbilt back in the starting lineup, go a little more defense. I don't know, though. It feels like maybe they need some offense. So in that case, like, I would kind of want to give D'Lo the minutes. Either way, though, I mean, it feels like shams if you're watching the Pascal Siakam news, and that kind of fits with the Warriors here, who we're starting to talk about in a second. Like, that they say there's a Western Conference team. Maybe that's the depth move that they try to make to shake it up at this point. But I mean, LeBron said it himself best in last night after the loss to the Grizz. We're recording this on Saturday, January 6th. But he said, we just suck right now. And I do wonder, like you said, when you're getting everything you need out of LeBron, because, normally I think in the past you go, oh, if the Lakers are under, maybe it's Anthony Davis dealing with another injury again. AD's been everything you needed and then some this year. And so they're going to need somebody to step up depth-wise. Maybe it's given D'Lo minutes again. Maybe that was an overreaction. I don't think firing Darvin Ham is suddenly going to be the answer, though. Like, I don't look at this and go, it's a coaching issue. Like, maybe recently some of the lineup decisions have been a little too quick, but I don't go that Darvin Ham is like an active detriment or anything. I'm not at that level.
I agree. I don't think that's the problem either. The problem is I don't think they're much different than they were last year. Like I feel like similar issues. I was trying to pull it up quick enough to see if I could find any articles from, essentially 2023 a year ago and what was being said about the Lakers. A lot of it was like certain players not showing up. And that's kind of what we have right now, like you just alluded to. It's just different names, so rinse and repeat in a way.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
and
but
it's
I don't know what
interesting.
that does. So does that lead you to believe that maybe the Lakers are just a play-in tournament team again, even though they've got two of the best guys in the whole league?
I mean, maybe, honestly, like maybe they just got hot last year at the right time because I look at last night, not to just micro focus on one game, but let's go to that game against the Grizzlies. You got what you needed out of LeBron. LeBron was
Yeah,
awesome. First quarter, he came out on fire. He ended with 32 points. Anthony Davis had 31 and 6. Austin Reeves had 19 and 12 assists. Like even Christian Wood had 11 points in this game, and it didn't
didn't
matter.
matter.
The Grizzlies got on a surge, and I know Memphis is playing better, of course, since John Morant's been coming back. But
And they're playing with urgency. Like the Grizzlies know what it is. There's no room for falter with them because of the 25 missed games from Morant.
I guess if there's like turnovers have definitely been an issue for the Lakers. I know that's like a kind of an easy thing to scapegoat, but it has for them a little bit. The other thing I just look at stats wise is their defensive percentage against the 3-pointer or against 3-pointers is pretty rough. Like that's really an area where they're struggling right now. Maybe it is as simple as defending the perimeter better, but I don't know, Justin. Like, I don't think there's an easier answer here without shaking it up a little bit out of
Yeah.
just getting the depth to perform. Like, the depth is definitely the one thing that's been missing here right now.
They're middle of the pack in the league for offensive rating. Seems like they're middle of the pack again for defensive rating, a net rating that is negative 1.5. It's just average.
Yeah. And
It's
that
just average.
and that maybe that's where we are with this team. Like maybe they are just average. I don't know. I look right now. I know Minnesota's been a little more up and down recently, but they look better. The Clippers certainly look better right now, the way that they've been playing. Obviously Denver, again, I feel like should go without saying, the defending champs. We know that they're looming. So I don't know. In a Western Conference that feels a little open right now, I think it's pretty telling that the Lakers haven't been able to kind of get things going a little bit, which
They currently right now, right, for that net rating, they're 22nd in the league. They're tied with Atlanta for net rating, which again is negative 1.5, but the defensive net rating or the defensive rating for the Hawks is significantly worse. But the offensive rating for the Hawks is significantly better.
well, and compare that to Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta, the way they got run out of the gym by Indy the other night, and the way that the Murray and Trae Young fit just hasn't kind of been there yet. That's a team that I think everyone's looking around and going, they're going to blow it up. There's reports coming out of Atlanta that everyone other than Trae Young and Jalen Johnson is available, which is pretty telling.
So
When you've got players like
maybe the Lakers tap into that youth wellness team and get what they can.
Not even just trade wise, though. I guess that wasn't my greater point. My greater point is like the Lakers right now are equivalent with a team that we're kind of clamoring to blow it up. Like that should not be. That's not good if you're trying to win the title. Like when your net rating is around that team, and that kind of gets there to the Warriors, who haven't really been doing much better. The Warriors and arguably are more messy. So now you've got the injury to the insult last night with Chris Paul with a fractured hand now, so he's going to be out as of now indefinitely. I haven't seen any full report on a timeline there yet, but Chris Paul is now, and he was getting tossed around as a potential trade candidate, but you've got Chris Paul now missing time. Obviously, Draymond is still missing time, but really
just a few days ago, the Gary Payton II was going to be out for 3 weeks with a hamstring strain. So really don't got a lot of room. And Draymond, I think you mentioned it, but Draymond, like, you don't really know.
Well, and hammies are notoriously difficult to recover. So,
Yeah.
like, that may be a little slower than expected to ramp Gary Payton back up. But, I mean, this is a team who in December, like right before Christmas, rattled off a 5-game win streak where they beat Brooklyn, they beat Portland, they beat Boston in overtime, which was easily their best win of the season. That was
Yeah.
the Curry game. They beat the Wiz and they beat the Trailblazers. So again, teams that they should be beating. But since then, you got to win over Orlando at home, and you got a 4-point win over the Pistons last night, who I think we already know what's going on there.
Yeah.
Granted, you did play Denver really tight. I mean, that was the Jokic half-court heave game, which just unbelievable shot. I mean, like the fact that he's 7 foot and just pulling up like that too.
Did you, by the way, and it'll kind of allude to my Ballin and Fallin a little bit, but I'll give you a little bit of the nugget now. Aaron Gordon had a phenomenal game that game
I
too.
see what you did there. Look at that. Okay, see, don't sell yourself short, Justin. That's a grade A double entendre.
Yeah, I'll act like I knew that. I meant to do that. But what I'll say is Curry's like subtle dig at Aaron Gordon was hilarious, saying that he doesn't remember the last time that he scored 30 points in a game. And for anybody that's wondering, that would have been February of last year, the 9th against Orlando, where he scored 37 points.
Aaron Gordon revenge game. Okay.
He's done it. He's done 30-plus point games 4 times for the Nuggets, and 2 of them were in 2022. One was last year, and one was this year. So.
Okay, interesting. But the one, the big thing to watch here with the Warriors is obviously the two thing. I mean, Moses Moody went the traditional route and just said, "Hey, I kind of feel like the punching bag here. I'm out of the rotation. Anytime you try to find something new, despite playing good minutes, maybe I'm a little unsatisfied." Jonathan Kuminga sat out the last 17 minutes and straight up went to Shams and just said, "Oh no, I'm fine. I don't want to be traded, but I've lost all faith in Steve Kerr to make me a better player," which is wild. That's a I have double mixed feelings there, because a part of me is like, yo, Kuminga, you're a really young guy. You don't got the juice like that to be calling out Steve Kerr. The other part of me is going, hey, if he's actively hindering your development, your next life-changing multi-million-dollar NBA contract may depend on it. So, like, you got to play your own hand here a little bit too. I'm not as mad about that as I was initially when it happened.
And you can call me out for being an idiot and asking this if it is a dumb question here. Do you think there is an argument to ask who Steve Kerr's developed since the Warriors run?
No, 100%. No, it's an extremely valid question that I think people are coming on to. Steve Kerr is a great coach. Like, he's got 4 titles. I don't think you accidentally have 4 titles. Like, as soon as he was plugged into this Warriors team, taking over from Mark Jackson, they immediately went to the top. Yeah, Steve Kerr's better coach for vets than he is for young guys. Like, there are more. I mean, even with the just collapse of this whole 2 timeline thing, the way that they were trying to balance, having Steph, having Dre, having Clay, and still trying to contend, but then also, having this young core that they were going to develop and ideally, start to hand over the reins to. And part of that was Kuminga. Part of that was the James Wiseman pick, which obviously just didn't work out. Like, James Wiseman flopped.
Jordan Poole.
I mean, other than Jordan Poole, who have they really developed? And Jordan Poole, even to that extent, like, I don't really know. Granted, it hasn't really looked the same since Draymond punched him either, but it's like, it's hard. Again, Jordan Poole is difficult for me to slander in the context of Golden State, because I think he's a big reason they won a title a few years ago. Like, truly, I think he's a huge reason they won that title.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's gone kind of south since then, other than him getting the contract. And so you do kind of wonder, did they develop Jordan Poole there, or did Jordan Poole just have the ultimate max potential of his season, cash in on it? I mean, and again, a hell of a season to cash in on. Like, you'll take that every time if you're a Golden State fan. But yeah, I mean, there's an extremely valid question of who has Steve Kerr like developed, and there's always been an element of Dub's Twitter that's kind of been on that, and it's been like sneaky telling people that for a while, but it also just hasn't really mattered because you just keep winning. As long as you're winning, that heals everything. But I mean, yeah, when you look at, now when you look at this roster, I mean, Wiggins has regressed.
Well, that's who I was about to point out and ask, do you think Wiggins could count as a development story? But I mean, when he left Minnesota, almost 500 games already under his belt, averaging 19 points a game, shooting 73% free throw, effective field goal percentage of 47, 33% from three. Golden State, he's at 37 for 3-point percentage now. Obviously, the attempts have gone up. The 2-point percentage also goes up a little bit. Effective field goal does go up. So maybe there is an argument on Steve Kerr's side to say from a effectiveness standpoint, Wiggins is a highlight. People might point he's scoring less and stuff like that, and it's always felt a little weird with Wiggins in Golden State. I've never felt confident about it. A lot of 2023, it was only 37 games. This year we're only 30 games in now. So you have two legit full seasons of playing. I don't know. I don't know if that's what it is or not.
I think with Wiggins, you get credit for, I think, especially in that title team, optimizing Wiggins. I don't think they get credit for developing him. Like you said, he had 500 games in Minnesota. Yeah. Like, this was a top prospect.
And
I don't really think you just maximized what he's good at. Like, I don't think, and he was a key part of them winning a championship team. So I don't want to, but to me, Wiggins never really probably hit his potential. And I don't think exactly you pulled it out of it more in Golden State. You just had him in the perfect scenario where he was able to maximize what he's good at.
I mean, yeah, the season that he was traded to Minnesota before he got there was averaging 22 points a game. Again, the easy allude to that is, well, in Minnesota, he was one of the guys, and you come to Golden State, and you're probably the fourth option at that point. Or third option.
You know what's great about prospects sometimes in that you can, and when we talk ourselves into things at the draft, and I say all the time that I am not a super, for as much as I know about the NBA, I really only follow college in the sense of I just watch prospects more or less.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was so high on Jonathan Kuminga, and I still kind of am a little bit because the athleticism, he has that ability that you can't teach. And so I still think in another scenario that Kuminga with consistent minutes can pan out here. But man, they took Kuminga one pick before Franz Wagner. And I remember when the Magic took Franz, I was so low on that pick. I was just like, whatever, that's fine. And Franz has been an absolute stud in Orlando since drafting him, obviously. A huge potential miss there for the Warriors. That happens to every team. I don't want to just solely focus in on that, but I do find that funny with prospects where it's like, man, you can just straight up be wrong sometimes. Even when you think you know it, you just may not.
I think an interesting trade for Kuminga would be the Jazz. There are a lot of articles out there, so I'm not going to act like I've just come up with this idea. But from a development standpoint, we're seeing some pretty good development happen in Utah, and Kuminga might also be somebody that could benefit from that. So that could be an interesting thing to watch. And I know you're going to kind of allude to the Jazz in our Ballin and Fallin segment. So maybe that's where some action happens. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need...
Because what do you want? What do you want if you're the Warriors? What do you want out of a trade for Kuminga? If that's the direction we're going,
I think you need vets. Unfortunately, you're at the point where I hate to keep going all in on an older core.
You have to.
It feels like you have to because it's like, what's the other option right now? Like, if you're going to try to contend this year, then you need to go out and you need to get some veteran players, and there will be playing. Like we mentioned, Atlanta. Utah does have some vets that they could definitely go and pry.
Bleacher reports suggested trade is Kuminga and Draymond Green, which is an interesting for
probably not going to happen, but I feel
right for Bogdanovic and Alec Burks from the Pistons, and a 27 first round and a 28 second round pick.
Yeah, there's just no scenario though where they're going to be shipping Dre to Detroit. Like, they're not sending a franchise legend to go play for the Pistons. Like, that's just bad business for them. Like, you look bad. And I know Dre has done some wild stuff here in the last few years. You cannot send Draymond Green to Detroit if you're Golden State. Like, you just don't treat your franchise icons like that.
Their other one, which would be very spicy, Kuminga, Wiggins, and Gary Payton. Again, the injury probably changes some things a little bit there. And a 2026 second round pick for Pascal Siakam. Yeah. If I'm the Raptors, though, I'd rather get first rounders out of this
If
which
they're
we already talked
available.
about in our last episode, but that could be an interesting thing too. Because Kuminga, I mean, is young enough to still fit that timeline with Barnes, like what you would have there at that point. Wiggins, he's younger, but I don't know if he necessarily would fit that. So
He's due
maybe
a
you
lot
try
of
to,
money too. That's the thing with Wiggins is you got to
yeah,
understand Wiggins is getting paid.
yeah. And then Gary Payton, again with the injury, I mean, it's only a few weeks. It's a hamstring, but we'll have to see. I don't know.
Well, and if you're keeping like I don't know, if you're trying to make a run, like Gary Payton seems like I keep him type deal. Like he's clearly played key minutes for them in the finals before. But again, if you get better vets, like a Siakam swing would certainly shake things up a little bit. I just know
Yeah,
too more than anything, and borderline, this may be true for the Lakers as well. The locker rooms are just bad, and if that's a situation that continues to boil over, I mean,
it gets ugly.
Kuminga just went into work after saying he doesn't have any faith in his coach. Like that's crazy. Like it is really. And again, I think Chris Paul will be potentially traded. Like there's a lot of shakeups in Golden State going to happen. But yeah, as of right now, neither of these teams look ready to win anything. And for two major, quote unquote, big market marquee franchises who are two of the last four franchises that have won titles in this league. Yeah, I don't think either of them, or both of them, I should say, have big questions. And I don't know that they're going anywhere fast.
So the Utah suggestion from Bleacher Report is Kuminga and Gary Payton for Kelly Olynyk. And I don't really feel like Kelly Olynyk moves the needle too much for me with the Warriors.
He's a good player, though. That's the
He
type of
is
player they
very
need to get, though. You know what I mean?
right. Like I totally get that, but the one right above it on this article is a Hawks trade. So Kuminga and Wiggins for Clint Capella and AJ Griffin. Clint Capella is a little more exciting than Olynyk in my mind. It's definitely a different
Oh, interesting.
approach. I feel like Clint Capella, I don't know, maybe it's just because I remember him from Rockets, I think, where I just felt like he had so much potential and probably still does.
Well, he's a rim runner. He's
Yeah,
limited. He's got a lot of athleticism, but he's like a
yeah.
get out and transition, catch lobs type guy. Like he's only getting the ball down low. Like I never want Clint Capella stepping out for three,
No.
for example. But I mean, if I can imagine him playing like a Looney type role, like he rebounds really well.
Okay.
Um, I can see that fitting. I think they need Olynyk more, just because I think Olynyk can do more things than Capella can. But like
I
I
almost wanna
understand.
compare him. I almost wanna try to compare him on, like, the NBA page. I'll see if I can pull that up quick
All right,
enough.
we'll start pulling that up. In the meantime, we'll get back to that. But we do want to switch gears into who's balling, who's fallen. Our NBA version of the stock market. We always like to start with the good before the bad. Justin kind of gave you a little bit of a preview from mine at the end of an incredible streak. More incredible in the sense that I can't believe this is a real thing. Balling for me this week is Jordan Clarkson, who against Dallas had 20 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds, the first triple-double of his career, and the first for the Jazz since February 13th,
Jeez.
2008, all the way back when Carlos Boozer did it, which that surprised me as well. Boozer would
Yeah.
be a guy that I could definitely see grabbing a triple-double. I just thought D. Will would have maybe with the assists in that time because he was such a superstar. And that, to me, is the more amazing part about this streak. Like, forget the fact that Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double for an entire season. Forget the fact that it feels like Jokic just rolls out of bed and gets a triple-double these
Yeah.
days. But the fact that, like, the Jazz haven't been in the dirt this whole time either. Like, they've been a pretty competitive franchise. They've been in the playoffs more than half of these years since 2008. I think a few conference finals appearances in there. The fact that nobody stumbled into a triple-double over that entire time is
Right.
actually remarkable.
Weirdly enough, I just assumed, like, Rudy Gobert did it with, like,
With Donovan Mitchell,
or
like,
Donovan Mitchell.
they had
Yeah,
Al
like
Jefferson, they had Paul Millsap. Like, I don't know, somebody.
yeah. Yeah, that's wild. Congrats to him.
Yeah,
I
first
also thought you
time.
were gonna tell me, what's his name? Gordon Hayward. I
Yeah,
always assumed he just did one.
definitely a potential as well. A little more, and this is per NBA.com. Clarkson's first or triple double off the bench is the first one for a Jazz player since February 5th, 1983, when Mark Eaton had, how about this, 12 points, 14 rebounds, and 12 blocked shots off the bench.
Jeez.
Getting the
12 block
getting the
shots?
12 blocks that's impressive. I like that.
Ooh, holy moly, man.
Yeah.
All right. I have pulled up the comparison for Kelly Olynyk to Clint Capella. I'm trying to figure out why. I guess he has played. I don't know why it's weird. They won't show Kelly's last 5 games. played, which is weird. So points per game, Clint Capella has him. 11 points to Kelly's 8. But Kelly assists per game, so you can move the ball through him a little bit more.
Mhm.
Obviously, Clint Capella has more rebounds, but Kelly is able to shoot from 3. He's actually shooting 39% this season from 3 and a better free throw shooter. So, like, if you're trying to space the floor, like we kind of alluded to already, Kelly's your option in that scenario. Clint Capella, like you said, more of the rim protector, rim runner, and kind of doing that kind of thing.
Oh, and that was the shooting. That
Yeah.
was what was appealing to me.
Yeah.
Just because
Yeah.
I know he's been lighting it up for Utah this year. But all right, who's fallen? Who's balling for you this week?
Ballin for me is the All-Star voting. It's officially open. You can obviously vote on their website. Now, Twitter, NBA Twitter has put out their front runners already on the first returns of the voting. No surprise in the front court in the Western Conference, the top 3 vote getters, LeBron, Durant, Jokic. For the guards, Luka, Shea, and Steph, or Shy, I should say, and Steph. And then front court in the Eastern Conference, Giannis, Embiid, Jason Tatum. Again, not surprised. Guards in the East, Hallie, Dame, and Trae Young, your top 3. I kind of nothing too surprising in terms of the first like looks in the voting. I did vote, but I put Maxey in there because I'm a homer.
We should be starting. Hang on. Maxey should absolutely be starting over
He,
Damian Lillard, but we can have that discussion as we get
he's
more upset about all-star votes later.
he's 5th in voting. It goes Hallie, Dame, Trey, Donovan Mitchell, Maxey, Brunson, LaMelo Ball,
Right.
and
Yeah,
then
like,
Derek
don't
White.
don't sit here and tell me that Donovan Mitchell's had a better season than Tyrese Maxey. Like, can we have an honest conversation for a second? But we'll get mad. I have plenty of time to get
Hold
mad
on.
about all-star voting.
Almost like a little under 200,000 more votes for Mitchell than Maxey. So I don't know if that's like a call out the Philly fans thing, but
Well, we'll see how it all plays out again. So as coaches vote and as players vote, like
yeah.
there are multiple things in this, but we'll have plenty of episodes to get mad
The
about all-star voting. But
the other
definitely a
thing
good reminder that it's open.
yeah, and the other thing that came out was the NBA put out the most popular social media viewer players for social media in 2023 as I
Uh-huh.
butchered the whole like whatever it was. Austin Reeves was in the top 15, which I thought was kind of funny.
I believe it. You know,
LeBron LeBron's number 1, Anthony Davis is number 11, so the Lakers effect is in full effect. And I feel like Embiid would be up there, but he's totally chilled out on his Twitter stuff.
Embiid never posts anymore, man. Like, for as much
Yeah.
as Embiid posted early on, Embiid almost never posts anymore unless he's in a good mood, which is, I mean, that again speaks to some of the maturation a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Embiid is, yeah, he's trash talked anyone in ages.
No,
Uh,
which by the way, he was going up the Bulls game, which was oh my, that was one of my favorite Sixers games to watch in a while because they were just up by like 30 before the end of the first quarter. Was against Drummond, and it made me think like, man, I forgot how much there was beef between these two on social media. It
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
like,
dude. Well, that's why it was crazy. They were teammates too at one. Like, I mean,
yeah,
they were teammates up until the Ben Simmons trade, like, and it seemed to be going well. Like that was that was ugly back in the day. Like it was definitely they had some battles for sure. Speaking of, I just saw this on ESPN as it popped up. 8 teams last night on Friday, January 5th, led by 25 or more points. That's the most the NBA has seen in one
wow,
night since 1997-98.
jeez,
And there was some weird, like the Nets blew out Oklahoma City last night. That was completely out of left and out of nowhere. The Knicks ran the Sixers off the floor. We don't need to talk about that, but boy, they didn't miss a single 3-pointer last night. It felt like they were just everybody was lighting it up.
no,
Um,
yeah, and it spoiled Embiid's 30-point run.
Yeah, I don't like that they kept him in to keep that streak alive, but that's a discussion we can have later. That's not winning mentality. Like
But
I'm over stat padding. Like don't stat pad when you're getting blown off the floor.
to that, I think there was a little bit of that going on against the Bulls game because that game was over and the Embiid was still in for a good bit
Yeah,
to
like
get
I
that.
don't need to stat pad. Like I'm
Yeah.
sorry, this is a
Yeah.
team that should be playing for the playoffs, not stat padding.
Yeah.
All right. Fallen for me is Milwaukee against Indiana. So the Bucks have 10 losses, I should say, this year. and 4 of them are to the Pacers. On November 9th, they lost 126 to 124. On December 7th, they lost 128 to 119. They did beat the Pacers on December 13th, 140 to 126, but back-to-back losses on January 1st, 122 to 113, and then on January 3rd, 142 to 130. The Bucks did bounce back the night after the second loss to Indy in the Giannis-Wemby duel, which was absolutely unbelievable. We'll probably talk about that on some other episode. But Giannis afterwards talked about how much he's thinking about it. He even mentioned that, he's like, I think about it before I get freaky. It was one of those one of those just great Giannis quotes. This is worth watching, though, not just because they're Central Division rivals as well, but there's a high chance they meet in the playoffs at some point. If they cross paths and Indy just stylistically is a match, maybe it's just a matchup you want to avoid. We know what Indy is. They're high flying, they are up and down the floor. They're not playing any defense, but they also just might put 150 on you. The Bucks haven't exactly been great defensively to start the year, so that is an interesting matchup to watch. And I think the Bucks are great, but they may have an Indy problem.
Yeah, I was just reading about it a little bit to add to what you were talking about in the last 5 matchups between the Pacers this season. The Pacers have averaged 128.8 points per game and have outscored the Bucks in all those games combined 644 to 626. It sounded like, at least in the last game, they kind of put up a wall against Giannis. And when that happens, obviously Giannis starts passing a little bit more. And when the guys aren't scoring other than Giannis, then you're going to have a problem. And Dame did have 23 points, but he was 6 of 18 from the field with 5 assists. So, that's not a good percentage in that situation. And if you're the Pacers, you'll take that all day. And when you're the Pacers and you have that good of an offense, just limiting Giannis a little bit might be the key in that situation.
Yeah, if I'm the Pacers and we just not want to abandon defense, so we want to just turn this into a gunfight, and we just want to go in and spray it up, then in that case, I'll like my shot if I'm Indy. If we want to just run, if we want to do wind sprints for an entire game, that only benefits Indy. So that is interesting to watch. And other teams, to their credit, which we've seen them start to do, but you got to find ways to slow Indy down. That's how you beat them. They're not good defensively. They are truly one of the worst teams defensively in the league, but with an offense that's prolific, or that is that prolific, it just doesn't matter a lot of the time.
Well, and so the Athletic alluding to the Bucks not necessarily getting back on defense. Pacers obviously push the ball pretty quick in transition, so that's a big part of it. Something they alluded to in the game was Giannis getting in trouble for a lane violation for a free throw. And instead of getting back on defense to try to stop the Pacers, Brook Lopez stayed back to try to argue with the official. So now it's, 5 on 3. And that's not great either.
No.
So there's a little bit of that going on. And we'll see. Like you said, I kind of want it to happen in the playoffs now, and I kind of want it to be in the first round because I think that would be wild if the Bucks got bounced.
Low-key, I don't want Indy, kind of. I don't know, man. The Sixers don't really play defense either. The Sixers' weakness still, to me, is transition defense.
Yeah, which is
what Indy does get out in transition.
Yeah.
So
it's exactly what the Bucks just got exposed for, so I get it.
Whoever has Indy the first round is not going to have an enjoyable experience. I'm not even saying they're going to get upset, but compared to some of these other playing teams and kind of hanging around on the edge, though, I'll say this. There are a couple of teams in the East that I may not want first round either. If the Knicks aren't the 4 seed, if the Knicks are playing one of these quote unquote top 4 teams, that's not gonna be a fun first round series.
And you don't want to play the Magic either, honestly.
No, but at least the Magic, I can say they don't have playoff experience.
They're young, yeah.
Which again, neither do the Pacers technically. So I guess that is, unless you count the IST though. That's the thing. Is I don't know. Pacers got a lot of experience in the IST. That's
that could be the experience, but that could be I guarantee you we're talking about that in the playoffs. If the Pacers win their first round matchup against whoever, we're going to talk about, dang, the experience gained in the tournament earlier on in the season might have helped them in this situation.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there, Justin. I think those minutes matter a lot, and I think that's why IST matters a lot. Let's switch over to Immaculate Grid here real quick. Again, you can watch the show on YouTube. Just search Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Justin and I are going to play the fastest Immaculate Grid of all time because we are sitting here at 54 minutes, which is great because that means we talked about a lot of basketball this week. But we will keep ourselves, I think, away from I usually give us 18 to 20 minutes to try to do the Immaculate Grid. We'll try to make it a little bit faster. And already I think we might be able to because I am looking at a lot of non-teams for this category. So again, you can watch our Immaculate Grids on YouTube. Just search Drive and Dish NBA podcast. For the audio listeners, though, across the top are 3 columns left to right. First round draft pick, 10 rebounds a game per season, and Hall of Fame. And then our rows from top to bottom are the Celtics, the Kings, and Defensive Player of the Year. Holy crap. Some of these are much harder than others. Some of these are kind of easy. I mean, for the team-wise, there's no overlap at all. We're just straight up running through what we can do for these teams. So
it's going to get a lot of how saucy can we get with it? You know what I mean?
Well, so DPOY, yeah, because I mean, I can start to do some of these in my head.
By the way, we talked about him already. For first round draft pick.
Yep.
Do we want to go Kelly Olynyk?
Yeah.
Was he picked by the?
I don't think it matters. Do they have to be picked by that team, or they just have to be a first-round draft
compared
pick?
With a team player either drafted by that team or played? Okay, let's go Kelly Olynyk. He was definitely a first-rounder, right?
Oh, God, I think so, right?
Well, we're about to find out if we ruin this right off the
rip. No, not like this. Oh, thank God. That scared me for a sec. I was like, oh, God, Justin, no, not like this.
0.3%, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, I mean, makes sense. Boston's got a lot of successful first-round draft picks, and it's not like Kelly Olynyk was there that long. I'm trying to think of somebody low percentage like that we can do for Sacramento.
We saw him. I feel like we saw him in Orlando Summer League for the Kings. Nick Stauskas.
Yeah, absolutely. That works. I'm with it. Sauce Castillo was definitely a first-round pick.
He spells it N-I-C, right?
N-I-K.
Oh, N-I-K. I was close.
Oh, man, Sauce Castillo. I wanted him to work for the Sixers so bad.
2%.
Honestly, 2 is more than I thought.
Yeah, very much more.
They drafted him, so I think that's why.
Yeah.
But because, I think Olynyk obviously wasn't drafted by Boston, so I think you get a lot of, where players may not think about it. All right. So this is where it gets tough because it's do you want to go chalky or do you want to go the most but I know with rebounds, especially after last episode's debacle,
they can be funky, man.
I don't overthink it. So my initial one for Boston, for the Kings, Boogie definitely works. Yeah.
Ooh, didn't oh my gosh, I feel like I reference him every Immaculate Grid. He was on the Grit and Grind era. And I'm pretty sure he did his last few seasons.
Oh, Zach Randolph?
Didn't Randolph have 10 rebounds a game?
But you have to do it with the Kings is the question.
Oh, good call. Good call. Okay, let's check. When paired with a non-team category, does not to
with that that team
in the same season. So yeah.
Okay, so he did need to do it with that team. So I don't know that Randolph did with Sacramento.
No, does not need to be in the same season.
No. When paired with a non-team category does not need to be the same. It has to be achieved with that team.
So then, season. Okay, do we want to go Stauskas or Boogie?
Wait, Stauskas? What?
Not Stauskas. Sorry. Sabonis. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, Sabonis. Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong with Sabonis.
Sabonis is going to be
the other two I'm thinking of are who might be a little rarer. I mean, well, Chris Webber, I don't think will be rare. I also don't know 100% that Chris Webber had 10 in a season.
But is Webber in the Hall of Fame? Can we use that as a?
So I think so. The other 10 rebound a season, I feel like I think Vladdy Divac had to have done it there, right? But I don't DeMarcus Cousins. I feel a lot better about.
Boogie's a guarantee. I also think Sabonis might be a guarantee.
Yeah, Sabonis is there now. I don't want
to be higher. Yeah,
I don't want to blow this early, and so I'm kind of leaning
Boogie.
I'm kind of leaning Boogie. I do think Chris Webber's in the Hall of Fame.
So then we can do Webber as Hall of Fame. I mean, you want to go Boogie?
Yeah, let's do Boogie there.
This definitely works. Definitely works.
Yeah, 100%. Um,
22% seems low, honestly.
I think Weber, man. I don't know Weber's rebounding numbers, and I don't feel confident about them, but I feel like he had to be over 10. And
Okay.
so at that point, I think that's where people probably plugged him in at.
Just to be safe. Yeah.
Um, and so if we want to do, let's do C Web for the Hall of Fame. I mean, C Web is I think it's going to be a little high, but I think with the rebound, it may split it a little
There
bit.
you go.
So yeah,
36. Yeah, it
36%, I'll
kind of
take
splits
that.
it. Okay.
Boston 10 games per season. The chalky one and the obvious one is Bill Russell.
Bill Russell.
And
Okay.
I know plenty of Hall of Famers for Boston.
I was
Not
going
even
to say
worried
Bill
about
Russell
Carmen
also
Bill.
works for Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
but
Bill,
yeah.
Bill, I am 100%, and he's probably the only one I'm 100% about. So I think we just burn Bill there.
Cool.
Again, it's chalky, but I think we get him. Yeah, 52%.
Yep, there we go.
Hall of Fame. So I want to go. There's so many because the obvious ones are Larry Bird. I think Paul Pierce just got in, so that would be one that works for them.
What about one that was a player that is in the Hall of Fame, but is more known for another team that did a stint with the Sounds? It's like
No, yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like who can we think of that's that? Because like defensive player of the year is probably going to be relatively 10 rebounds is going to be harder, but
DP. No, I think we can get through.
yeah, we'll be fine. Like Tim Duncan works right there, so
yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually,
yeah.
So it was either that or I was just gonna go Boomer with it. So like Casey Jones works for Boston. Dave Cowens works for Boston. The obvious boomers that people are going to know are Bob Cousy and John Havlicek. Larry Bird, of course, in the 80s is an obvious answer.
Sure.
Kevin McHale is an obvious answer. Robert Parrish is an obvious answer if you want to stay in the 80s. I'd say we go boomer though, man. I'm thinking like either Casey Jones or I'm thinking Dave Cowens. Like,
let's go Casey Jones.
Okay. I think that'll be really low. It's literally KC.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Yep, I found him. Okay. Ooh, yeah, 1%. Good call.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm super in my boomer bag for that.
So I would say 10 rebounds, defensive player. We just go Tim Duncan and stay chalky.
Yeah,
with
it was either going to be Tim Duncan. The only other one I can think of is like I'm pretty sure Olajuwon won a DPOY.
Well, couldn't we do him for Hall of Fame at that point?
Yeah.
So
yes,
yeah. So that at least. Yeah. So let's do Tim here. Let's go Tim Duncan here. Although I guess is Tim in the Hall of Fame now?
Yeah.
They're already in, right? So I guess, do we want to flip it? Do we think that's less?
For DPOY and Hall of Fame?
Yeah. 10 rebounds, because that's the thing. 10 rebounds and then Hall of Fame. We could probably flip those guys. It's just which one we think is going to be the lesser percentage.
I think you flip all of them then at that point. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's just as low for either, because like there's so many, like a lot of those options are going to overlap because they're big men in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
so like, I don't know how much it'll be a difference. Like, I'm fine rocking with Tim Duncan there.
Tim Duncan here? Yeah, couldn't we go Anthony Davis too? Did he ever win Defensive Player of the Year?
Tim Duncan's won DPOY, right?
Yes.
We're 100% about that.
I am 99% sure he did.
Why am I not sudden about that all of a sudden?
Do you want me to do it? Let's just do it and find out.
I don't know. Hang on.
Let's burn it.
No. Wait. Hang on.
I want to do it so bad. We were so confident. Tim Duncan was there.
Why do I feel like Tim Duncan's never won a DPOY now? Why did that just pop into my head? And that makes no sense. But
I think he has. He had to have won it.
Hang on. Let me ponder on this. Let's go back to first round draft pick. Let's do that one because that one I know.
Kawhi.
I mean, the most obvious one there is MJ.
Kawhi.
Kawhi was a first rounder.
Kawhi was a first rounder for sure. He was like the 8th.
I think LeBron won DPOY, didn't he?
He had to have, right?
I don't know, actually.
I feel like he had to have.
I feel like he had to have.
You know who works 10 rebounds per game a season? Defensive player? Freaking Rudy Gobert. Easily.
Oh, yeah, do that. I like that.
Rudy Gobert, for sure.
That would be way lower percentage than Tim, too. And that's recent, so it shouldn't be in theory. But yeah, Rudy Gobert definitely works.
Rudy Gobert, 15%. There we go.
It's 15. Wow. I mean, I know Rudy's still playing, so it's kind of obvious, but
yeah, I mean that's an easy one, but yeah, definitely works there. I forgot he just recently won that. I mean, first, yeah, I mean we can go. Jokic never won defensive, right? He just won
No.
MVP.
Jokic definitely didn't win defensive player.
Okay.
I kind of want to go. I mean, you could use him for either, but like Hakeem Olajuwon is going to work for one of these because he
So
was the
let's
number one
go.
overall pick, and then he was Hall of Fame. Or you could also do. We could do Kawhi and Olajuwon and just
Yeah.
lock this out.
Let's just do that.
All right, I'm with
Let's
it.
just do it.
I'm with it.
Kawhi.
Yeah, Kawhi do the first round pick in DPOY.
7% is interesting.
Then,
Hakeem.
yeah, I think we just close out on Hakeem because Hakeem's we snubbed Hakeem last week with that Rockets thing, so we got to end
Yeah.
it on a high note.
All right.
And I just know it's right. Like
Right.
I don't want to be like I try not to get chalky and think about it, but also
we're
with the time
chalky.
crunch, like let's just lock it in.
Money locked in.
Yeah,
Here we go.
money in the bank. All right,
151
9-9.
rarity score.
Yeah, pretty good. So let's scroll down real quick. Let's see who we got for the most common. So for Celtics first round draft pick, it was Jason Tatum. For 10 rebounds a game per season, it's Bill Russell. For Hall of Fame, it's Larry Bird.
Okay.
For Kings first round pick, De'Aaron Fox. For 10 rebounds, it was Vladdy Divac is the most common for 10 rebounds a game per season. That's kind of crazy. I didn't think he'd be, but C Webb was most common for Hall of Fame, so that makes sense.
This tells me an older audience was playing the game.
Yeah, I'm surprised over Boogie. Like that's because Boogie was there for a while. That's the only thing. Defensive player of the year, first round pick was MJ, most common. 10 rebounds a game per season, Dennis Rodman.
Oh, yeah.
Hall of Famer Michael Jordan would have worked as well for defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
Do we want to? Can we scroll back up and recap ours real quick?
Yep. Did we? Oh, hold on. Did we find out if Tim Duncan ever won? Tim Duncan, defensive player.
This is why I'm glad when we play this together and we save ourselves sometimes. I wish I did last week. Tim Duncan, astoundingly, has never won defensive player of the year. He was on the All-NBA defensive team 15 times and never won defensive player of the year. I don't know how that's possible.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, we'd have burned it there. And so I'm glad we can come back to it. I was going to come back to it on the rebounds because I was with you, Justin. I immediately
just assumed it happened.
Said there's no possible way that he didn't win. Can you check while I'm recapping? Can you check David Robinson for me quick? The other Spur big man.
Yeah, go ahead.
While Justin checks that, our final Immaculate Grid, which we did successfully complete, for Celtics first round draft pick, Kelly Olynyk. For 10 rebounds a game per season, Bill Russell. For Hall of Fame, Casey Jones. For Kings first round draft pick, Nick Stauskas. 10 rebounds a game, DeMarcus Cousins. And Hall of Fame, Chris Webber. For defensive player of the year, first round draft pick, Kawhi Leonard. For 10 rebounds a game per season, Rudy Gobert. And for Hall of Fame, Hakeem Olajuwon.
So interesting. Now I'm going down a rabbit hole here. David Robinson did win the award in the 91-92 season.
Okay, so he would have had that over Tim Duncan. That's crazy.
Yep. Gary Payton was the point guard. Gary Payton was the first point guard to win the award.
Yep, the glove. What was that, 96?
It doesn't say the year. Dwight Howard actually won it 3 consecutive years, so he probably would have worked in the 10 rebounds per game one too.
Yeah, 100%. He's probably one of the more common ones, you would think.
Yes, honestly, we didn't even mention him, which is wild. So I'm trying to see if I can find any other. Hold on, here we go. Jaren Jackson Jr. would have been an interesting pull.
Oh, because of the new one. Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus Smart. Well, he wouldn't have had first round pick and defensive player would have worked for him.
Yeah, because he was 6 overall, I think.
Yeah. Joakim Noah would have been an interesting one. Marcus Saul, Tyson Chandler, Kevin Garnett, Marcus Camby.
A lot of big men, dude. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So for the rebounds, that does help a lot. Like that really helps.
Alonzo
and even like Rodman's not your traditional big man, but he's such an elite rebounder.
Rodman. Oh, weird. Rodman won it back. Oh, no. Never mind. David Robinson and then Rodman. No, yeah. Rodman won it back to back.
Do you know the Pistons or the Bulls?
Pistons.
Okay.
Pistons. Michael Jordan. Yeah, now we're starting to get towards the 80s. Yeah. So
LeBron doesn't have a DPOY either, by the way, which is like not terribly surprising, but kind of a little bit just because he's such a good defender.
Draymond Green has one. 16-17 season. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Draymond's for all antics aside, Draymond Green is genuinely one of the better defensive players in NBA history. It's just, unfortunately the antics, especially in these last few years, have unfortunately taken the wave a little bit. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Drive and Dish NBA podcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Leave us a review on iTunes, good or bad. We will read them on the show. If you're not an Apple user, Google Play Store, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon Music, anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us.
And we're on YouTube, like we did at the beginning of this episode. If you leave us a comment there or really anywhere, we will make sure to shout you out, give you your comment a read on the podcast. But you can find us on YouTube, subscribe there, Drive and Dish NBA podcast for the video version. And obviously, when you subscribe, you'll get notifications when new episodes are coming out.